Friday the 23rd of December 2022 at around 4:40 p.m, the emergency services were called to Quarry Green Heights in Northwood to the report of a disturbance. They were called as it was reported that there was a woman climbing out of her apartment onto the window ledge, crying hysterically and screaming for help, claiming that she was locked inside and being choked. Upon their arrival, police officers found a 20-year-old woman who was unresponsive and in a critical condition and was immediately taken to Aintree University Hospital. Unfortunately, despite the best efforts from the emergency workers, the young woman was sadly pronounced dead a short time later. An investigation was launched and a cordon had been put in place around the apartments following the incident, while extensive CCTV, house-to-house and forensic inquiries were carried out. A man who was in the apartment at the time was arrested by officers and was taken into custody, where he was questioned by detectives. The following day, the victim's family named the young woman as 20-year-old Courtney Boorne, as they spoke of their total disbelief and were still trying to come to terms with the tragic news just days before Christmas. A GoFundMe page was set up with the hopes of raising £5,000 as the family were still trying to come to terms with their loss. Following the murder on Christmas Eve, Detective Inspector Laura Lamping of Merseyside Police confirmed that a 19-year-old man had been arrested on suspicion of murder. 19-year-old Liam Kane of Skipton Road in Anfield was charged with the murder of Courtney Boorne and was remanded into custody to appear in court on Wednesday the 28th of December. A post-mortem examination concluded that Courtney had suffered a cardiac arrest due to asphyxia, suggesting that this may have been caused by strangulation. On the morning of Wednesday, the 28th of December, Liam Kane appeared before Liverpool Magistrates Court, charged with the murder of Courtney Boorne. The 19-year-old spoke only to confirm his identity during the brief hearing, as he was not asked to enter a plea to the count. Liam was then remanded into custody by District Judge Wendy Lloyd, ahead of a further appearance before Liverpool Crown Court the following day. Courtney worked for Quartz Care, a home care company based in Prescott, and was described as polite and funny by colleagues at her former workplace in a touching tribute. They spoke about how nothing was ever too much trouble for her, and she was adored by both her service users and by all of her colleagues. On Monday the 10th of July 2023, Liam Kane stood trial at Liverpool Crown Court for the murder of his girlfriend Courtney Boorne. Liam denies the murder charge, claiming that he acted in self-defence from an attack by his girlfriend, claiming that the altercation was sparked by her hitting him in the head with a weapon. The jury heard how the couple had been in a relationship for around 3 years by the Christmas of 2022, and the couple had lived together at the apartment for around a year. Courtney was seen leaving for work at 6:30 a.m. on the day of her death, with Liam subsequently heading out at roughly 10:30. They were then captured on CCTV taking a bus home from Robson Street in Anfield, re-entering their address at 2:45 p.m. Shortly after 3:30 p.m, she phoned her mum Cheryl and told her that Liam was threatening to take her phone off her and had tried to strangle her. She told her that if she didn't hear from her within 1 hour to call the police because something was going on. Just over 1 hour later, a woman who lived in an adjacent block of apartments dialed 999, reporting that she could see a woman in an apartment opposite, screaming and climbing onto the window ledge. She said that the female appeared to be shouting at someone inside the apartment. Courtney was heard by neighbours to be pleading with someone inside the apartment. She was crying and she was shouting, "He has all of the doors locked and he won't let me out." Another witness, who was also an occupant of the complex, was outside at the time putting bin bags into the communal bins. She also called the police, reporting a female shouting out of the window. Courtney was very upset and shouted for her to call the police as she needed help. She said that he wasn't letting her leave and the whole apartment was locked up. She screamed that he was choking her and battering her, and then the window slammed shut. Officers reached the scene shortly before 5 p.m, but it took them 24 minutes to force entry into the 14th story apartment, after their knocks at the door went unanswered. Upon entry into the apartment, they discovered Courtney's unconscious body lay on the bed, with visible marks to her neck. She was rushed to Aintree University Hospital, where despite the best efforts from the doctors, she was pronounced dead at 7:02 p.m. The post-mortem examination found that she had suffered a cardiac arrest because of the asphyxia due to strangulation allegedly caused by Liam. Liam was arrested by officers, found crouched down, leaning on an armchair in the living room, crying uncontrollably, with his head and face covered in scratch marks. Liam was initially arrested on suspicion of a Section 18 assault, after Courtney was found unconscious in the bedroom. Liam said to an officer that his head wasn't in the right place and he had to get out of the apartment. Liam was taken into custody at Copy Lane Police Station, and at 7:15 p.m. following Courtney's death, he was further arrested on suspicion of murder. After hearing this update, Liam started crying again, claiming that he did not do it. After gaining access to his mobile phone records, they found that he had sent a text to his dad saying that he loves him the world, and to tell everyone how sorry he was. In regards to Liam's claim that he acted lawfully and reasonably in self-defense, as he was defending himself from an attack by Courtney, which is why he was found with scratches to his face, the prosecution stated that these injuries were due to Courtney struggling to get out of the apartment, away from Liam's control. Under cross-examination by the defence, Courtney's mother, Cheryl, was asked whether anything made her sense there was anything seriously wrong during the phone call earlier in the afternoon, as she never made a phone call to the police herself, but was alerted about the fatal accident by Liam's mother. Cheryl replied by saying that she didn't think there would be anything seriously wrong. She did believe they were having an issue, as she knew that Courtney did not want to be in a relationship with Liam anymore, but she didn't think that he was capable of hurting her. The defence suggested that Courtney would go into a real rage and be difficult to reason with. She would go off at the deep end, erupting like a volcano, shouting, swearing, then almost as suddenly calm down again, from one extreme to the other. Cheryl described that this was due to Liam looking through her personal stuff. He would go into her mobile phone without her permission, alleging that he would open up her eyeballs as she slept, in order to unlock her phone via facial recognition. Audible gasps were heard among her family and the public gallery, as the defence suggested that Cheryl was making that up, to which she denied. The trial continued for a third day, but as pathologist Dr. Paul Johnson began to give evidence from the witness box concerning the post-mortem investigation he conducted, Liam got up from his seat in the dock, left and walked out of his trial, returning to the cells. In response to this, the judge asked the jurors to retire before recalling them after a brief halt in proceedings. He explained that the defendants chose to be absent from this part of the evidence, and that they should not read anything into that. Dr. Johnson continued to address the jury, detailing a number of scratches, abrasions and hemorrhages to Courtney's face and head, with the latter believed to have been caused by the veins in the neck having been obstructed by pressure. He stated that there had been no fracture present to her larynx, but found damage to her windpipe, saying this was good evidence that the windpipe had been forcibly compressed. He described that the injuries to her body may have been consistent with someone attempting CPR, also addressing a number of grazes found to her fingers, telling the jury that they were an odd group of little injuries. He stated that he couldn't be sure about the mechanism, but suggested that the most likely explanation is these injuries were caused by teeth. Dr. Johnson recorded a conclusion of death by mechanical asphyxiation, adding that this most commonly involves forceful neck compression or external airway occlusion, or a combination of these forms of life-threatening assault. He said that it was difficult to provide a definitive opinion as to the exact combination of asphyxiations based on pathology alone, but that, in his opinion, there was clear pathological evidence of forceful neck compression, which he considered to have played a central role, if not the central role, in the death. Liam subsequently returned to the dock as a series of agreed facts were read to the jury later on in the afternoon session, where he was largely sat with his head bowed down. In a prepared statement by Liam given to detectives during his interview, he stated that he denied these allegations against him. He spoke about how Courtney had changed recently and had become more argumentative with him, and had assaulted him in the recent past, once threatening to stab his mother. He claimed that this caused a deterioration in his mental health, and said that on the day of December 23rd, they were engaged in a verbal argument, following calls made to Liam's phone from an unknown number. He said the first act of violence came from Courtney whilst he was sat on the sofa in the living area, after he refused to give her his phone. He alleged that this had consisted of a strong blow to the side of his head with an object, in which he simply just tried to block this attack. He said that she attacked him with a plant pot, a broom, and a kitchen knife. He claimed that any physical contact from his side was only to prevent further attacks from Courtney. He then claimed that it wasn't him who locked the doors, but it was in fact Courtney who did so, preventing him from leaving the apartment. However, no such records show any contact on his mobile phone from an unknown caller, while the objects he claimed to have been assaulted with were found in positions which contradicted his account. Firstly, the plant pot was present in its usual home on a table in the living room. The broom was in fact discovered in the kitchen rather than the living room, where he claimed she attacked him with it. And Liam also claims to have disarmed her of the knife, and he drops the weapon in their bedroom, but no such blade would be found in the room. On Wednesday the 19th of July 2023, a jury took just 1 hour to find Liam Kane guilty of the murder of Courtney Boorne. After hearing the verdict, Courtney's family, some of who were wearing t-shirts emblazoned with a picture of Courtney with the message "Justice for Courtney Boorne, Forever 20", were seen to be in tears as they embraced each other in the public gallery. Liam, who appeared via video link, showed no reaction to the verdict and was expected to be sentenced on Friday the 21st of July. Judge Brian Cummings, KC, stated that Liam had strangled Courtney at least twice during her ordeal before his final fatal attack. Her injuries indicated that he had his arm around her neck at some stage, and that he had been blocking her mouth with something, such as his hand. She also had bite marks on her fingers where he had bitten her as she desperately tried to fend him off. He stated that he was sure that it was Liam who slammed the window shut so that he could continue his attack on Courtney, with his attack ultimately ending in their bedroom. He said that he was sure that the final act of strangulation was at least the second time that he had done so, probably at least the third time. Whatever precisely happened, it reached a point at which Courtney was so terrified that she climbed onto the kitchen window ledge and began calling for help. He suspected that when Courtney was calling from the window ledge saying she'd been strangled, this was because it had happened again since the call to her mother, in which he then strangled her to death. He couldn't accept that Liam had even shown any meaningful remorse, as he was denying that he acted unlawfully and only acted in self-defense, and was blaming the victim and making derogatory accusations about her character. He completely rejected Liam's notion that Courtney was the attacker in the situation, claiming that the injuries caused by her were all in the act of attempting to defend herself from his attacks, tragically without success. He was convinced that, certainly by the end, that Liam had acted with the intention to kill. He stated that this was a domestic violence murder against a background of previous possessive or controlling behaviour from Liam's part. He had trapped her in the apartment, blocking her only way out, leaving her terrified and calling for help before he slammed the window shut. He was entirely satisfied that for a period of an hour or more, Courtney was in a state of fear for her life, as Liam on at least 2 occasions and probably more, ultimately strangled her to death on the bed. He said that her final moments don't bear thinking about. After the verdict, Detective Inspector Laura Lamping of Merseyside Police spoke about the brutal murder and the abhorrent domestic violence that Courtney endured. She said that nobody can begin to understand the impact that her sudden death has had on her family and friends, but that hopefully this conviction will give them a sense of justice. She explained how this conviction demonstrated their dedication to bringing perpetrators of domestic violence to justice, with Merseyside Police continuing to do everything it can to tackle all violence against women and girls, while supporting victims and targeting perpetrators. She explained how domestic abuse is a complex issue that can take many forms, from psychological, financial, sexual, emotional and physical, and they want to raise awareness to anyone who is or has experienced domestic abuse or has been affected by it, so that nobody else has to suffer in silence or go through what they have been through. They work closely with local domestic support organisations, local authorities, safeguarding teams and charities to ensure that services and ongoing support are available. She said how they have a number of specialist departments within the police to investigate these crimes, stating the importance of working together to support victims and collectively work to prevent these crimes occurring in the first place by raising awareness. After the verdict, paying tributes to her daughter, Courtney's mother said, "I now live day to day and do not stop, so I don't have to think about what's happened to her. I always have people around me as I don't want to be on my own, and it keeps my mind occupied. My family have been great support in keeping me busy so that I can carry on. I have no choice as my children need their mum. They have suffered enough with their sister, who they love so much, taken away from them." Courtney has 6 siblings, and the 3 youngest siblings have been receiving counselling due to them struggling to understand why she is not coming home. One of her siblings has stopped going to school and is struggling with his emotions with Courtney not being here. My other child suffers from nightmares but doesn't understand that Courtney won't be home. Another one now has angry outbursts and gets upset easily. Then my youngest child is too young to understand and asks when she's coming back and to bring his birthday present. How do I tell a 6-year-old child that he will never see his sister again? Liam has destroyed our lives as he has taken Courtney away from us. Courtney was the heart and soul of this family and was precious to us all. I miss hearing her voice. I miss her singing in the kitchen trying to sing the high notes. I miss our phone calls and hearing her laugh. I miss our days out and seeing her play with her younger siblings. I am trying to hold my family together. Courtney will never be forgotten. On Friday the 21st of July 2023, Liam Kane was handed a life sentence with a minimum term of 17 years after murdering his girlfriend, Courtney Boorne, in their apartment in Northgate back in December 2022. Liam has recently been transferred from HMP Alt Course to HMP Forest Bank in Salford midway through his trial, after coming under threat from fellow inmates. There were concerns over his safety as Liam, after giving evidence from the witness box, was threatened by another prisoner whilst being transported back to jail on Thursday the 13th of July. And that brings to a close the horrific case of Courtney Boorne, who was tragically taken away from her loving family and friends at just 20 years old. Lawless Underground would wish to extend its sincere condolences to the loved ones of Courtney Boorne. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, then please consider liking the video and subscribing to Lawless Underground for more crime related content. If you have any suggestions or requests for future videos, then please let me know in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious, and goodbye for now from Lawless Underground.